Is Throne and Liberty good now? Did they fix the combat? Did they remove the autoplay garbage? Let's see.
So it's been a few months since we last checked up on Throne and Liberty, this being the upcoming MMORPG that, while boasting quite a few interesting systems and features, unfortunately enough seemed primed for failure.
True.
After hosting a beta this past summer, reception was almost unanimously negative, a result of its poorly...
After the beta, the reception was fully, almost 100% negative. It was crazy. The fact that this game played itself fun for you and just required you to log in it constantly because it had some kind of stupid mechanic behind that made you, well, spend money on it. And then the combat. Man, the combat. If you don't know, in this game, if you were playing a melee class, you could not run and attack at the same time. The only way you would attack is if you would stop your character. It was crazy. So essentially, if someone's running away from you, they're effectively immortal because you can't do damage to them. because you need to stop to do damage to them, and when you stop, well, they just run away from you. It was absolutely crazy. And the marketing about this game was even crazier. Because the marketing team fully well understood that in the current state of the game everyone's gonna hate it. Man, the marketing team did a good job trying to make this game look good, but man, did this fail hard.
Implemented combat, autoplay features tailored for mobile, and monetization that can make even Lost Ark or Black Desert blush. Yeah, interest and excitement for what at one point was one of my more anticipated upcoming MMOs quickly ground to a halt, which was a real shame because Throne and Liberty has some seriously cool features, boasting a massive seamless open world, 0 loading screens, instant fast travel, while also supporting tons of players simultaneously, and it all looks pretty good too. In fact, visually,
yeah, it looks good. This game actually looked like it was gonna pop off, but then this happened.
I think the game is solid across the board, and from some of the raw beta gameplay that we saw, it has some great clarity and render distance, making the open world full of tons of players look all the more impressive. They've got the expected assortment of biomes, fantasy, and medieval-inspired MMO locations with both PvE and PvP offerings. One of the more interesting features of Throne and Liberty, though, is how the weather and time of day directly impact the world, players, and enemies. So for example, when it's raining, it'll fill up certain bodies of water, like you can watch a small puddle turn into a pond. Also, certain enemies, say something like a fire elemental, will get debuffed when it's raining, making them weaker, while other enemies might get stronger. Player abilities...
I'm not gonna lie, it sounds cool, but I can already tell you that that's gonna be a mechanic that gets boring real fast, okay? It's gonna be cool, and you're gonna overall enjoy it, but the reality is, it's gonna be like, it's raining, better go down to that place that's 10 minutes away to fish because reasons or something like that. It's gonna be slightly annoying.
Are affected as well, so a mage's lightning shock might be single target most of the time, but during a rainstorm it actually becomes a chain lightning, striking several targets. All of that are just a few examples of what can happen during rainstorms, but the same is true for time of day. So for example, there will be certain enemies who only show up.
Essentially, also, this means, by the way, if you're playing a fire mage, which is pretty popular, let's be real, everyone probably at some point has been going down the street and imagining how he would be destroying everything with fire if he had the abilities. Or it's just me. In any case, yeah, imagine if you're playing a fire mage and suddenly you can't do damage because it's fucking raining. That would be horrible.
Up when the sun is down, like skeletons or zombies or ghosts, or there are dungeons that will only open when the moonlight hits it. And then beyond all of that, there are a few other really neat things about Throne and Liberty that include these world events where players and guilds compete to do whatever the objective is. To go along with its big, seamless, massive open world, there's tons of traversal features, and it also features a class.
Oh, dude, but look at that world. It does look pretty good, huh? It does really look good. I was looking forward to this. I thought that this could be one of the big things, but man, Wow.
There's tons of traversal features, and it also features a classless system where character abilities are based on what weapons you use and which skills you pick from those weapons. And that is just a list of some of what is neat and looks really cool about Throne and Liberty. However, as I just said, a beta test took place this summer and reception was not good. Not because any of that stuff that I just talked about isn't cool, because it is, but there were some other major glaring issues that bogged down the entire thing. For starters, combat felt bad, which is a pretty big deal considering it's what you spent a majority of your time doing. What was originally described as this hybrid action combat system turned out to be one of the worst implementations of tab targeting we've seen in a long while. Heavily rooted with no auto attacks and almost zero movement skills made the combat feel incredibly static and uninteresting by all accounts that I saw. Then beyond the combat, the second major issue was the fact that many of the game's systems seemed tailored for mobile, which was later confirmed to be the case by the developer. They said that they added those systems with the mobile version in mind. These included auto just about every aspect of playing the game. There was auto attack and skill use, auto combat, which they called astral hunting. There was also auto pathing or auto movement.
Dude. Astral hunting. That's just the cherry on top.
Movement. And all of those features would come.
Okay, you give me $100, I give you nothing. We're gonna call it Astral Lovin'. Yeah, that seems about right.
Together in what was fully autoplay offline mode, where the game would just play itself while you were logged offline for up to 8 hours a day, although that was locked behind a paywall. Not surprisingly enough. Which then leads us into the final thing that people were not happy with, and that was monetization. Even just in the beta, the systems were clearly in place for what looks to be a heavily pay-to-win, or at least pay-to-skip game. Timers and energy systems with purchasable items to bypass both those limitations. Highly valuable daily quests that were paywall gated. If you don't buy the subscription, you miss out on a ton of extra resources, materials, and currencies. And then an auction house whose main currency.
Do you want to bet that they're not gonna call that pay to win, by the way? Oh, here's this thing that you need to buy for money, and it gives you 3 times more resources than anyone who plays this game for 24 hours. Oh, but that's not pay to win. You're not buying power, really. You're just buying, you know, a thing. Oh, I hate it so much.
Currency is a paid for premium currency. That's right. We're not talking about using in-game gold. It's the literal definition of paying for power in the game by buying powerful things with real money. It is for all of those reasons and others that despite the game having some really cool elements, it didn't matter. Feedback to this summer's beta was predominantly negative. Bad combat, mobile design, and their monetization plans made it so that nearly every discussion around this game was not good. Well, the developer NCSoft and the game's Western publisher Amazon, they took notice and said, hey, we hear you. Thank you for the feedback. We're going to make changes. Now, shortly after, they announced a global release would be delayed from what was planned for this October until sometime in 2024. In the meantime, between that delay and the new launch, they would be addressing all...
Okay, that's good. My speculation was that, oh, come on, it's just... one of the biggest things you just need to do is change the fact that you can just run and attack at the same time. That cannot be that hard, right?
Major issues raised by the community. They promised that they would be fixing combat, removing most if not all of the mobile design, and maybe they take a look at monetization to make it not garbage. Maybe. We'll see. Maybe. All of this info was revealed during NCSoft's quarterly earnings call, which took place in August. This was basically them trying to stave off investor concerns, but at that point, all of the fixes that they were promising were just that, promises. They were just words that they were saying. We hadn't actually seen any of it in action. Well, as of today, that has changed. In the months since our last video, we have seen improvements to nearly every gameplay and system concern that Throne and Liberty had. Showcases from the developer, new gameplay videos, and hands-on impressions from people who actually got to try these updates in action say that things have turned around. Gosh darn it, have they done it? Have they fixed Throne and Liberty?
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. It sounds still good to be true.
Possibly, at least. It seems like they have addressed, in fact, the major issue of combat and have removed most of the mobile features. As to the monetization, well, let's be honest here. It's still probably not going to be great. This is NCSoft after all, and they've got a reputation of pay to win to uphold, right? But they are promising it's not going to be quite as bad here in the West. we'll see how that all pans out. And for argument's sake, let's just say they do fix the game and you end up checking out Throne and Liberty when it releases. You might be interested in the sponsor of today's video, LG's latest Ultra Gear OLED gaming monitor, or the 40.
Yeah, if you want to buy a LED monitor, I don't know why you would buy a LED monitor, but you know, if you want to buy it, use Force's code.
If you'd like to learn more and
It's probably just
check out LG's
Force.
gaming monitors for yourself, go ahead and use my link in the video description below. But now,
Yep, click on the description, go to the video, and use this thing if you want a LED monitor. Didn't we work so hard to ban LED things? I'm joking, but it's a funny joke if you think about it. And now LED monitors are the new thing. Oh, come on, have you never heard of lead poisoning? That's why your grandfather, you know, did all those bad things.
Now let's get back into Throne and Liberty. As mentioned, we have seen a lot of improvements for the game over these past few months, and let's just take a look at what exactly they have done. For starters, yes, they are fixing the game. It appears like they've addressed many of the biggest concerns and points of feedback from the beta. Combat, for one, is no longer completely 100% static. I can't believe it, but they've changed it to make it fluid and just more like a modern day tab target system. They have added auto attacks.
By the way, I have absolutely nothing against tab target combat systems. I in fact like them for one. I don't know why everyone wants to go away from the tab targeting combat systems, or people sometimes say tab targeting as it's a bad thing. World of Warcraft, despite all its flaws, is still the #1 most played MMORPG on the market. And it has tab targeting. And nothing, even though World of Warcraft destroyed itself, okay? No one destroyed World of Warcraft. No one even came close. And World of Warcraft uses tab targeting combat systems. And guess what? How many people are complaining? 0. They're complaining about everything else World of Warcraft related. But about the tab combating? No one's complaining.
You can do on the move, and changed it so that most abilities now have some built-in movement to them. So that situation during the beta where players would have to stand literally totally still to do any damage is no longer going to be the case. Now there will of course be some abilities and skills that do require you to stand still. That is normal in any MMO or RPG. Yes. Typically you will be
obviously
sacrificing mobility for impact, whether that's harder hitting single target attacks or massive heals or casting area of effect abilities. Those are the sort of situations where skills might require you to stand still for a duration, and that is totally fine gameplay design. But now, at least in Throne and Liberty, standing still is no longer going to be the default for 99.9% of your attacks. Combat should just feel much better. In addition to adding more freedom of movement while in combat, they have also removed character collisions in everything outside of PvP encounters. They have minimized player inertia when changing direction to make movement feel more responsive and tight. They've added more area.
What do you mean removed player inertia though? So you can just switch direction in any moment that you want? Yeah, that's good.
Effect and cone attacks that players can perform without having to have direct targets. And they've also said that they are working on making weapon swapping feel more fluid as well. Now the folks over at MineMMO went hands-on with this update and checked out this latest stuff at this year's Gamescom, of which they confirmed that combat felt significantly better, saying even after the adjustments to combat, Throne and Liberty is not an action MMO. You do select targets with the tab key, and your character performs the normal attack automatically. You don't even have to press anything. However, the animations are smoother and a lot can now be done. And
again, am I the only one who feels whenever someone says tab targeting like this, it's like they're trying to offend that it's not some kind of action shit? Because again, I don't like tab targeting. I have absolutely no problems with it. But everyone's, it's just the old classic tab targeting. No, who cares? Really? Most good games have tab targeting, or have tab targeting.
Used in motion. Overall, my interest has increased massively due to the changes of combat and autoplay. So yes, the combat on the move, it's not full-on action combat. It's not even a hybrid action combat system like, say, Guild Wars 2 or ESO. It's a tab target one, but it's a tab target one that feels much more modern day with a lot more movement to it and shouldn't be nearly as static as what we saw in the beta. Now, as for the mobile systems, basically all of the autoplay features, Amazon has completely disabled every single one of them for the Western release. So the auto
Nice.
combat, known as astral hunting.
Okay, disable doesn't mean removed, by the way. So that's kind of that. Also, that's odd boy. In any case.
Where you click a button and AFK, that's gone. The auto travel, where you click a part of a map and the game moves for you, that is gone. And the fully offline autoplay mode, where the game plays itself when you're logged off, all of that is gone, at least for now, because they have said they will monitor this decision and might re-implement some of the auto combat or autoplay based on player.
Yeah, we all know what that means, right? If the game gets popular and people stay and play it, after the people who are just gonna abandon it in any way in a week, because there's a lot of people who abandon new MMOs in a week. You know, they play it, they're like, okay, I'm satisfied, and they leave. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. The moment that happens, they're gonna probably re-enable some kind of blatant pay-to-win thing, maybe. Who knows?
Feedback. Look, the biggest problem and the biggest concern with auto combat in particular is how much the existence of this feature impacts the grinding in the game. Things like the time it takes to level up your character, skills which are leveled by use in this game, the amount of currency that you get, etc. Basically anything that requires playing the game and is time gated in some sort of way, the time required to...
Do you like when skills are leveled by usage? I don't. I really, really don't. Because there are skills that you defaultly use less, that are very circumstantial, and leveling them is just like a pain.
Progress is likely to be inflated if the game has an autoplay feature, because hey, while you're not playing, you could just let the game run and grind, farm, and level up for you. This can make it so that the progress you do get while actually playing the game feels slow and far too extended out, and that was actually one of the biggest points of feedback from the beta, is that the game seemed very, very grindy because it had...
It probably doesn't just seem grindy, by the way. The real problem with this is, okay, imagine it. You go to sleep and 8 hours later you wake up, and then your character is in a completely different zone, completely different gear, completely different everything. Yeah, that sounds honestly horrible.
And was designed with autoplay in mind. Now, grinding is pretty much a part of any MMO, be it leveling your character, leveling combat skills, gathering resources for crafting, materials. All of it is some sort of a grind, but striking the balance in the grind for any aspect of an MMO or an RPG and making it so that it feels rewarding and not too punishing and not overly grindy, that is vital, and the presence of auto anything can really mess that up. I'm really not so concerned about auto travel. If you want to let us click on the map and have our characters auto path to a destination, that is fine, but I think auto combat really can really hurt the feeling of progression.
Honestly, that's true. Auto traveling is not that bad. Some people really dislike the idea of anything auto, but auto traveling is not that bad. You just click on a spot, and your character uses the road to get to it. It's not that big of a deal.
When you're not using auto combat, and it can put a lot of pressure on players to use auto combat and keep their computers running 24/7 as a result. And I'll say personally, I just really dislike when games have this feature for that reason. Now on to monetization. Now this one is a little tricky. Amazon has stated that there will be no pay to win in the global version of Throne and Liberty. The problem is that everyone has a different standard and definition of what qualifies as pay to win. At the very least, we do know, and they have said, that they won't be selling the token that unlocks that 8 hours of offline auto grinding every day. And as I just mentioned, at least for now, they've removed any of those autoplay features. But what about the rest of the cash shop? Well, it doesn't look exactly great here. In a recent showcase for the game, it was revealed that the basic player auction house, where you buy and sell items with others, one of its forms of currency is the premium currency. Yes, the one that costs real world money in order to buy, that can be used in the player auction house. And another thing to keep in mind is that Throne and Liberty does feature a gear upgrade system where you start with a base piece of gear and then you rank it up, going +1, +2, +3, +4, all the way up to +12. It goes higher and higher and it gets stronger and stronger along the way. But also, the higher you get, the more likely that piece of gear upgrade is to fail. And you betcha, they are almost certainly going to be selling the items required to reduce that fail chance, just like it's done in Lost Ark, just like it was done in ArcAge and Black...
Well, yeah, technically they do sell that. Okay, but okay, this is a good thing. Right? So, Lost Ark is one of the best games that currently exist. It's easily in my top 5 games of all time. It's just the most well-designed everything. The classes feel good, the bosses feel good, and you know what? I played it a lot. 2K hours, baby. And I never spent a single dime. I just bought a couple of skins, and that doesn't honestly matter. And guess what? I was always there. Day one to do the newest content. I did not get kicked out of groups. No one cared that I'm using some kind of stupid pinnacle Glavier with a lightning vulnerability set of all things unholy for the current raid. No one cared about that. You know why? Because people actually don't care about that. If this game is as pay to win as Lost Ark, I'm perfect. Sounds perfect. Which means you're still going to be able to play it. And if you're not stupid, you're probably going to have a good time. You're going to be doing all the newest content when it releases. You're going to have probably 2 or 3 characters that are hitting the newest content despite your one main. It's going to be great. You don't need to pull resources. You don't need to do any of that. It is great. So, if this game is as pay to win as Lost Ark, I am completely fine with that. I don't know what kind of person you need to be to get kicked from a goddamn Valtan group when not even Brel Shaz, but when Vicus was the current raid. Even if you didn't have a single gem on you. Maybe those are American problems, I don't know, but man, I never experienced that.
Collectors Online, pretty much every game that has gear tier upgrade systems like this will sell either the resources to make those upgrades or special items that reduce the chances to fail as you get into those higher tiers. It's pretty much guaranteed and expected that that will be here in this game as well. Although we have at least learned that for Throne and Liberty, failed upgrades won't break or degrade your gear, so that's nice, I suppose. Yeah. On the plus side as well, it
Lost Ark, baby. Love it.
Was revealed that the game will not feature any loot boxes or gacha mechanics, and instead will be focused on selling battle pass subscriptions, cosmetics, and auction house transactions, as we just mentioned. Although this doesn't rule out that
and by the way, I'm also completely fine, okay, with people buying, if you want to spend 100k in this game to be better slightly than someone who doesn't spend 100k, go ahead. I don't care, dude. Go ahead. It's not like that's gonna matter, because all the people who play these games to spend like hundreds of k a month, they have their own guilds where everyone is like that. You're never even gonna interact with these whales most of the time in your life. And probably the only time you're gonna maybe are gonna interact with them is like some kind of daily activity where you're gonna be pretty happy about the fact that he killed the boss 5 minutes faster because he is absolutely just decked out up the wazoo. I don't see any problems with this. It's shitty that it's pay to win in general, but the way if that's the way it is, I'm kind of fine with it, honestly, to a degree. It's fine.
That there could be some pay to win and pay to skip features, especially with whatever's tied into the auction house. No gacha is nice, but we do know as well that they're going to be selling pets that auto loot for you, which likely is going to be something you want, as it was in Black Desert Online. Looting manually, clicking on every single character was a pain. They don't have area automatic auto loot like say they do in World of Warcraft or a lot of MMOs, but they will sell pets that will do the auto looting for you. These can be purchased for real money. Likely there will be some unlockable in the game. We'll have to see where they fall in terms of how good those pets are, how many of them you can acquire, how effective they are. Are the paid pets better looting?
That's a Black Desert thing, by the way, purely. Black Desert, you can have like 6 pets at a time that are auto looting for you, and that's kind of really, really important, at least for Black Desert, but I doubt that it's going to be the same for this game.
Probably, but not necessarily. It's not a guarantee. I will say.
Okay, because think about it. We have not seen a single instance where anyone's actually fighting more than 3 mobs at a time. Okay, and most of the time in every video that I have seen about this game, it's 1 mob at a time. So, spending 0.5 seconds of my life clicking the loot button is probably not gonna ruin my day.
Say though that with the combat and the mobile features seemingly addressed at this point, it does look like the game's microtransactions and monetization system is likely to be the biggest pain point, the biggest issue with the game, and I don't necessarily expect that's going to change. I think even if the combat felt perfect and everything else was addressed and it didn't feel like a mobile game, and all those systems that I'm so excited about, those come through and really shine, even with all of that being the case, I do suspect the monetization, like a lot of games, will end up dragging the total experience down, which really is such a huge bummer because I envision a world where this game, where Throne and Liberty comes out, the combat's great, all of these awesome features and open world and the seamlessness and all the players and the PvE encounters and the PvP encounters and the open world dungeons and all this stuff, that whole package of the playing the game experience sounds amazing. And just imagine if the garbage cash shop wasn't also tied into it to have a killer game.
It would be better, yeah, but you know, again, how are you gonna... We can't run away from this. There's no such thing as boycotting enough games that do this, that other people are not gonna attempt to make other games like this. It just doesn't happen.
Potentially have a really amazing game, but that's not what's going to happen, and I think for that reason, eventually the fatigue will set in with how the monetization is tied into progression, is tied into the end game, is tied into what the season pass, how the monetization interfaces with the gameplay experience will likely be what eventually wears people down and pulls them away from the game.
Probably 100% true, though. Yeah. Well, actually, the first thing is gonna just be the fact that people are gonna play it, and then they're gonna be like, not for me. And then the people left are gonna suffer the burnout fate.
As we've seen time and time again. But yeah, I'm excited to play just for all of those features, to check out all of that content that sounds so awesome. That is really what will keep me around for at least a few weeks until I'm sick of seeing like failed upgrades because I'm not gonna buy the reduced chance to fail on my gear. Just not happening. Now,
and then he buys the reduced chance to fail on the gear and he still fails.
we have learned some other new details and features about the game over these past few weeks. These were revealed through various events, interviews, live streams, and developer videos. Starting with PvP. So we know that the game is going to have PvP, but they have shifted to more of a PvE focus. Instead, now there will be certain zones that are flagged for PvP every couple of days. Outside of that, the open world zones will be mostly PvE most of the time. So it seems like generic open world PvP, ganking, all of that stuff isn't going to be as commonplace as we were initially led to believe and as the game was initially designed. But they have said PvP...
By the way, if you don't understand what's happening here, the dungeons are not going to be fully instanced as much as I understand it. And, you know, people are going to go in like this en masse. Because I don't even know if there's going to be an instance dungeon where, you know, you go as a group of 5 or something like that. Most of this thing is going to be opened. You can go in here solo, and chances are you're going to meet someone grinding on the, you know, already in there. And I don't know how the bosses are going to work. Will they just respawn every couple of minutes and they're going to be a farmable? Is this like an Anarchy Online type of deal?
Is still going to play a big role. There will be certain world events and bosses where PvP will happen. These events will be marked by this ring, and so long as you don't enter the ring, you won't be flagged and marked for PvP. But things like the idea of having unrestricted free-for-all PvP with 0 consequences whenever the sun went down at the nighttime, that was originally a plan and something they talked about. That, for example, has been removed. But despite these changes, yes, NCSoft has stated...
I didn't even hear about that, huh?
The PvP is still a big focus. There will still be a ton of PvP content, both small and large scale. It's just less all-encompassing and more level up, reducing the resources and materials required for crafting and enhancing equipment, and adding more group and auto getting respawned. All of that can impact a game.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, I think we got the gist. Anyway, that was Force Gaming. Wow, Throne of Liberty actually not looking like garbage. Who would have expected that? 10 out of 10. This was Quizzer Sid saying, thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.